Hello UniPlot community! Do you know how to handle 3D dataset properly in UniPlot? Well, today we'll see that applied to Conway's game of life. We'll start introducing the rules of this game of life, and then how to implement it in UniPlot. An example of the game is what you have seen on the top with UniPlot logo. How does it work? You will need an initial pattern to say where are the live cells at the beginning of the simulation. Some example here. Then 3 rules to decide who lives, who resuscitates, and who dies. The rules are really simple, and this is what makes the simulation really interesting. The first rule, who lives. Any live cell with 2 or 3 live neighbors survives. This is what is shown in the diagram. Rule 2, who resurrects. Any dead cell with 3 live neighbors becomes a live cell. All other live cells die in the next generation. Similarly, all other dead cells stay dead. Now that we know more about Conway's game of life, I will show you how to implement that into UniPlot. 3D dataset in UniPlot, whatever their size, will be displayed in a grid of a resolution of a maximum of 100 by 100 cells. So I'm using this maximum resolution here. Those 2 lines will allow me to get the path where the script is available for later on to use some files. To initialize the world, I have to give a matrix of live cells. So either I use an initializing matrix of random values, or I will do it based on image I created. I will show you that. So I create a temporary document in which I will include the image. The document is created. I take one of the image I have available. I create the image. I add the object into the layer that was created earlier, and I replot the page. Here we can see the image I created. Let's zoom a little bit. Here we have. Out of this image, I will create a matrix of 1 and 0s saying which cells are alive. In this case, the black one. And I have my matrix here as RMZ matrix. Once this is done, I will now create the world. The world will be based on an XYZ dataset that I create using XYZ create function. To create it, I provide the matrix created earlier and the minimum and maximum value of X and Y axis, here from 0 to 100 using this vector. After that, I will provide some properties to the dataset so that it looks like this black and white shape we used to see for Conway's game of life. I created the goal setProps function, which takes me here, where I set all the predefined function I want to use to set up the lookout of the dataset. I create the dataset, then I set the properties, and I will create a template. So this one I created on purpose for this simulation. I have my world here, and I will add the dataset and replot. Normally I hide the grid, but for the purpose of showing you how it works, for the moment I let it visible. A small message box to know whether we should start or not. And now we have to loop, and this is pretty easy here because you get the matrix data using XYZ get matrix. It will give you those values. So here, in fact, it's the first matrix we provided. We apply the rules to this matrix. So here we have the game of life rule function that are applied to the dataset. Cell by cell, we check whether a cell has to be alive or dead for the next generation. And we store this information in RMXYZ next matrix. So we have the previous generation, the next generation, and now we set this next generation into our dataset using XYZ set matrix. And the page has been replotted and we see the next generation. And if we go on with this, we'll see the evolution. Now let me loop infinitely. And we can start to see some elements that are typical of Conway's game of life, such as still life, oscillators, and spaceship. We can see one here that is traveling and that will impact the world as it goes. I hope this peculiar implementation of Conway's Game of Life was useful for you to get to know 3D datasets in UniPlot and learn how to use them to run simple 2D simulation. Thanks for watching us. For any question, contact us at support@uniplot.com. Do not hesitate to check our website www.uniplot.com and click on the logo to follow us on LinkedIn and get fresh news of UniPlot.